Hello friends, this is Cara-Renee with B.Reborn Art and Healing, coming to you with my Sunday's Art of Truth for October. I haven't done a Sunday's Art of Truth in quite a while. A lot of that has to do with my schedule as well as inspiration and the emotional place that I often find myself in. It's hard for me to create when I'm super stressed, create around this in this way when I'm very, very stressed, when my project actually comes with a message. So Sunday's Art of Truth, in case you're new to the channel, is an opportunity for me to share a piece of art and a blog post, which is the story behind the inspiration for a particular project. So in today's project, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about supplies and my idea, and then we're going to do a voiceover for the rest of the video because it gets really crazy because mixed media, there's a lot of drying time, there's a lot of layers and all of that. So I will bring you along for all of that, but I'll do a voiceover. So this is the image that I'm going to be using. Okay. Isn't she fantastic? Now I do see that I've got lines from my printer. I'm not too concerned about that. It's a mixed media piece. But I just was captured by the colors in this image, which I'll talk about in the blog post, because I feel like what's happening here is I see a constellation. I see a lot of fiery color, like powerful color, and it captured me immediately. But I went looking for a woman / with constellation or stars, and I got this off of Pixabay. So the quote that I'm going to be using is, "She wore her scars like constellations, each one a story of resilience written across her skin." And I've mentioned before that September and October are the hardest months of the year for me for historical reasons. And I thought this was a perfect opportunity for me to share not in a too oversharing kind of way, but just a little bit of my story, because I know if you guys have been watching me, you probably notice I do have a lot of actual scars on my body, on my arms, and I know that those show in the video. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about it. And again, not to go into the story and into the dark and into all that, but just to come to you with some transparency, some vulnerability, which I love to do, and at the same time bring you an amazing mixed media piece. So that being said, this is going to be a hard image to work with because it is very dark and it is very bright, almost neon colors in here. So I'm going to have to go really mellow on my background, and probably I'm going to follow the rule of thirds on the panel and make sure that she's kind of offset, and then try to bring in a color in her, probably this turquoise, out into the background. So it's going to be a very different process for me. I'm a little bit nervous because this is sort of like Unscripted Saturday. Like, I have some supplies out, but I really have no idea how I'm going to make this happen. So I'm just going to do it, and I'm going to follow my heart, which is what I do with Sunday's Art of Truth, because in order to do it effectively, I have to enter into a deeply emotional place in myself and kind of look inward and process through my creative flow in that space. So that's what I'm going to do today. So I've got matte medium, gesso, Liquitex modeling paste. I'm going to be using some acrylic inks. These are from Sommelier. I have never used them. This is titanium white. I thought it would be fun to do maybe some white splatters. I have my Liquitex raw umber, and I'm thinking that this is the color I want to draw out of here, and this is a turquoise from Daler Rowney. I'm not a big fan of their inks, but it's what I have. And then there's also a quinacridone magenta. I'm not sure why I got this out. We'll see. There must have been a reason. And then I've also got some cobalt turquoise just in case. So I may grab for some things, but you won't see that. It will be fairly seamless for you. I also have my golden fluid acrylic in raw umber, and Nicolazo yellow is a really great transparent color for a background, because look at how transparent that is. So it's going to really help us show the papers underneath. I just am struggling with how I'm going to make this the focal image, so I'm going to have to think on that. But yeah, I'll show you that when we get to it. So I've picked also a number. I'm going to set that somewhere where it can't get wet, because I need to be able to see it, but I don't want it to get wet. I've got a bucket over there to put my stencils in because I did select quite a few. I'm probably not going to use them all, but I like to get them at my desk and in case I need them. So I don't want this one because it's a little bit too big of a pattern, but I thought this would be really nice and dainty. So we'll see about that. And then I've got this one is from Sean Petit, and I've never used it. And I almost really like the geometrical look of that. So I've got that one as a possibility. I also love some of these are Paris elements. These are all from Sean Petit. And I'm leaning towards this one here, but we will see. I'm not going to do a ton, so I will just be selecting whatever inspires me at the moment. This is also really cool, and I thought this would actually be a really good one because I think that having a more neutral background and have the texture and the background complement the image versus compete with it will be a good way to go. So I feel like this is very simple, and so that's kind of on my top of my list. I also have this tissue paper. I'm not sure, it just jumped out at me in the drawer, so I pulled it out. And I've got various music papers for the background. And then this one also popped out to me. It says, I mean, it's a Walt Whitman poem, but I liked that it talked about kind of a little bit of how I feel sometimes. Let's see. Oh, Captain, my Captain, our fearful trip is done. The ship has weathered every rack. The prize we sought is won. The port is near. The bells I hear. The people all exulting, while follow eyes the steady keel, the vessel grim and daring. But oh, heart, heart, oh, the bleeding drops of red where the deck of my captain lies, fallen cold and dead. Now that's kind of gross, but I liked this part up here where it talked about our fearful trip is done, because even though I struggle with the residue of my history, I really celebrate the fact that fearful trip is done. Like I am on the other side of healing, and it feels so good, and I'm so grateful. So we may or may not use that. It popped out at me, and I don't know why I've got that one. I don't necessarily want that. And so I'm going to have to push some things away, and we're going to start with some background papers. Let me talk about the substrate. This is looks like it's a 14 by, wow, an 11 by 14 wood panel. It's not the gallery depth that I really love, but we're going to make that work. And I figured it was a good size for our image. This won't be all on the page, but I'm thinking I'm going to do kind of the rule of thirds and have her kind of here. Okay, kind of, I want to catch her hair there, but kind of like that. I'm just not exactly sure how I'm going to make that happen, but I'm going to start with the background, and I'm going to just turn the music on, and for parts of it, so I'll do the voiceover, but there'll be parts where I'll be talking in the voiceover, and then I will be setting it to music. So, because this can be a long process. So I'm going to go ahead and get going, and you can catch me in the voiceover. Okay, we're going to start with putting all of the music papers down. I am using my Liquitex matte medium. All the supplies will be linked down below in case things go too fast for you to actually visually see it. So I'm going to go ahead and tear down these papers a little bit because I wanted to not have that border around the music. I wanted to just really focus on the music notes and words themselves. So that's what I'm doing here for a moment, and I will begin attaching them with my matte medium. I'm going to be turning them in different directions so that we have a little bit of more interest in the background. Much of this does not show, as is pretty normal for mixed media process. So the music pages were really, I knew that they needed to be part of the background because of the story. Our story is also music. Regardless of what that story contains, it is the music, the tempo, the allegro of our lives. And so I love that this was what I chose for the background. So I'm going to go ahead and just let the music play here for a little bit, and I'll be back in a moment. Okay, just finishing up on that last little bit. Looks like I need one more small piece. And then I'm going to make sure that the surface has a thick coat, a good coat of matte medium, because that's going to help the other layers that we're going to be putting on. It's going to protect and seal those papers. And so I do realize I'm noticing as I edit that I'm getting some glitching on the camera. I'm sorry about that, guys. No idea why the camera is doing that, but I don't have any other choices at the moment. So here's just a close-up of that paper. As you can see, it's going in different directions. And I also really like the wrinkles, because the texture that we add and the paint and other materials is going to catch on those wrinkles, which is really awesome. So I decided, as I mentioned in the intro, that I'm going to use this dotted tissue paper, and I always forget to use it, but it was such a great element here, and I'm just going to apply it in a few different places, and I want you to watch how it melts into the background. It just becomes one with the music paper underneath. And so again, I'm going to turn the music on for a bit. Just coming in with the last of that tissue paper. I don't know if you can tell on the camera, but it is dotted gold, which really was beautiful in the background. We can see little hints of it in the final product, but a lot of this, as I mentioned before, does get covered over. So now I'm going to come in with some sewing paper, some sewing tissue paper, which is going to have the same effect. And there was some things on it that really captured me. There was some wording that talked about bunting and things like that, and I loved it. And it actually ended up showing, I think it's this piece right here that ended up showing in the final product. So I'll make sure that I capture that in the photos at the end of the video. So just getting some more matte medium there, and I believe I apply this in 3 different places. I also love that the arrows and the lines were really meaningful to me too, because don't you know that our journey also is quite linear, and it can take us up, down, side to side, you know, and all of that in different directions. And I find that as I've healed, that I really embrace those changes and those directions, and it's quite meaningful to me. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the music on again. And there we go. And here's just a close-up. I did dry that in between, and just look at how that tissue paper has its own elements, but it also is showing all of that beautiful music paper underneath, which I think is really beautiful. It's a really great effect. So, and there's where I'm talking about the lines, and they just speak to me. It's sort of like numbers. Numbers are really important when I'm creating a mixed media generally. I didn't add any numbers to this project, which is different. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to do a raw umber glaze. So typically when I do mixed media, I do a glaze when I already have texture on the paper. But what I really wanted to do was set this base with a little bit of grunge, a little bit of push back some of that music paper, give it a little bit more of a vintage look, and then we'll be pulling some of that back up. The beauty of a glaze is where you mix your matte medium or glazing medium with an acrylic paint. I prefer a raw umber fluid acrylic because it's a little bit thinner. And then what the glazing medium or the matte medium does is it extends the working properties of your paint. So that's why we're able to come in with wipes or paper towels or whatever you have and wipe up some of that and affect the lightness or the darkness of that base, which is really beautiful. And if you've watched me for any length of time, you know that I do that a lot. So here I'm just pulling it back up. And what I loved about this is where we can see you can see the differences in the paper, the tissue paper versus the sewing paper, and the music paper, and that's why we're getting varying tones across the substrate there, which I really loved. I loved seeing the separation of that, which that's also a part of the story. And as I mentioned in the intro, you can hop over to, I believe I mentioned it in the intro, you can hop on over to my blog and read the inspiration. So I apologize, the coloring kind of changed as I lift this up. It's just my camera, but just wanted to show you a close-up of that base when it is dried. So fingers thumping always means I'm thinking, so I'm just bringing out my focal image. You will see when I come back, I bring that back onto screen. I do print a different one, and I change the shape of it just to make it work. I was thinking about marking that off with some pencil, but I didn't need to actually do that. So I'm coming in. This is something I never do. So I do not like black. As I mentioned, I don't even like to use black ink, but I'm coming in with the black acrylic ink from Sennelier, and I'm going to be doing some dripping that's going to bring some really dark, kind of moody tones to this project, because my story was very dark and it was very moody and it was very it just had a lot of those elements. So I forgot I came in with the turquoise first. So much of the turquoise and the quinacridone magenta, I believe I come in with next, doesn't show a lot in the background, but you can see hints of it, which brought to life a little bit more of that kind of grungy, pushed back vintage background. So it was worth doing, but it didn't have the effect necessarily that I was looking for. But this process in its entirety was very different for me. It was, I felt very relaxed when I was creating, and I felt very confident in what I was doing. I did struggle a little bit with my element, getting my quote on, which I did off camera, but you'll be seeing that in the photos. So this is the quinacridone magenta, and I added a dash of raw umber because I wanted to make sure it didn't take over, because magenta is a very staining color. And I do apologize. I'm hoping that glitching is not going to show up on video, but again, I need to look at another camera option because I don't know if it's the speeding up of the clip, but we will see. And I'll be kind of investigating that after the fact, but I'm not going to let this beautiful work go to waste. So again, a little bit more magenta and the raw umber fluid acrylic, the ink rather, I'm sorry, raw umber Liquitex ink. Oh my goodness. Just dabbing that up a little bit. Just, I want to soften that. And then I did give that a good dry, and yeah, there you go, a close-up. You can see there's just a little bit of tinge of color, which I think was really good. And sometimes a layer is really about just getting something on the paper. It's like breaking the blank page. It's this idea of just get a layer in there, you know, because you can always come over it with something else and all of that. So this is the Sennelier black acrylic ink. And this is the first time I've used the black, as I mentioned, but it's also the first time I've used the Sennelier colors, and they are super amazing. So just spraying some water on that top edge, and I'm going to let you watch here for a little bit because I'm going to do it across the top, not all the way to the left side, but mostly focused on that corner and the top edge. And I'll be turning the canvas over and doing it from the opposite direction. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the music on now. just finishing up with the last little bits of this black ink. I really, really love what happened here. I used to do this drippage in the early days of my mixed media, but I haven't done it recently, and I really like it. I like the black. Typically, I do not go for black. Adding a little bit more water there because I want that to really move and loosen up a little bit. And yeah, I love it, and it's very, very prominent in the finished piece, which I wanted, as I mentioned in the intro, I needed to have that neon picture be really vibrant and stay the focal point and the star of the show, which I think I was able to accomplish. But I also love the black elements because it is, again, very moody. So that is my black archival ink from Ranger. I'm using archival ink because any fluid or moisture that I put on the top is not going to affect the stamping, and I'm just using one of my script stamps. And I'm realizing as I'm doing this that I am stamping black on black, which at the moment just kind of caught in my throat, because there's a lot of analogies for my story with that black on black process, and I really felt like that was an important part of the story of this piece. And again, you'll be able to read that over on the blog. So I'm just placing that text in various places around the whole piece, and this does show quite a bit in the finished product. So we're going to be doing some other stamping here coming up, but I really like how it turned out. And yeah, so I'm noticing, I was noticing as I was creating that I had some geometric shapes happening in terms of the lines with the layers, as well as I'm going to come in with a circle stamp, and I just continued on kind of with a more geometric look on this piece in terms of some of the layers. There is this circle stamp. It's kind of a multi-ring stamp, and it's a wood block stamp, which I keep in my mixed media stamp drawer because I really like it for mixed media effects. So I'm going to do that in several places here on the piece. And then I'm going to come in also with a circle stamp, but I'm going to go ahead and turn the music on and just let you enjoy the process. Okay, just doing the last bit of that stamping, and I really love that we've got the gold dots that are a part of the tissue paper, and then the black dots are really complementing that. Now this right here would have been good enough in terms of like just a base surfaced for a mixed media piece. It's very neutral, it's very balanced, I feel, and it is really lovely. I decided again to go with a more geometrical look. I wasn't thrilled with this stencil, honestly, but in the end, when the whole piece pulled together, it was really a good choice, because basically with this this part, I'm just trying to get some texture on the substrate, and I don't want to overwhelm the focal image with a bunch of texture that's going to kind of steal the show. So this worked out really well because it gave me some texture to accentuate with another raw umber glaze, as you're going to see in a little bit here. But it also was able to capture some of the paint that I end up putting on it. I used some manganese blue paint to highlight and bring out the color of blue in the focal image, which you'll see here as we move along. So I'm just going to let you watch here for a second while I do this, and then I'm going to dry and we'll move on. And now a quick dry, and we're ready for the next step. So this is my golden fluid acrylic in iridescent gold fine. I was determined not to overwhelm this piece with a lot of gold accents. I was successful. I just did some splatters using the golden fluid acrylic. I did add some water to thin it out, and I'm just splattering everywhere on the piece. And I really love the effect because it brought out the gold in the tissue paper, and it also just gave a little bit of, well, I love gold. I love gold. Gold to me symbolizes value and worth and all of those things, and it is part of the story as well. So as you saw there, I did do another quick dry, and I believe I'm going to come in now with another raw umber glaze. Yep. So I'm going to do that again because I do not like white texture on my pieces. It doesn't even matter if it's a bright and cheery page or substrate project. I don't like the white texture paste. Now one could come in and do it, colorize the texture paste before applying it, and then you wouldn't necessarily have to do this. But I love the glaze. It always works out well for me. So I'm going to just do that really quick. You're going to be able to see this process one more time. I am putting a coat over the entire substrate here again. And so, and then we'll be wiping that up. I'm going to go really soft on the texture part because I want to make sure I don't remove a lot of the color because I really need that to be colorized. So as it's going now, it looks pretty darn good. So we will be taking some off though. And just, I like to use baby wipes just because it's effortless, really. You could use a wet paper towel if you're not into baby wipes and all of that stuff. But you can see I'm just barely dabbing because I don't want to remove all the color in the background. I want to make sure that that has the ability to shine through. So I'm not sure what was going on there that I was messing with, but that's okay. Another dry and then a close-up. Again, when I bring it close up, it does distort the image, but there's the beautiful texture. And again, I like the geometric look of that. I think it was really fitting for this project. So we'll see together what what I did next. Oh yeah, so there's also a lot of beauty in stamping on top of that texture. I do this often, so I'm coming in again with that text stamp and I'm stamping directly on top of the texture, that raised surface that I made using the texture paste, and then you see that script on top of the texture, and that's it's not the last layer because I'm going to come in with a little bit of paint on top of it, but you can see it definitely in the pictures, the close-up pictures. So I hope that you'll take a moment and look at those because it's really, really beautiful. And every layer is a part of the story. So the script to me is all about voice. It's all about being able to put out there my thoughts and my feelings and writing down my story and those kinds of things. So I'm just showing you there what that text looks like on top of the texture. Really, really satisfying. So this is where I printed it on a heavier paper, and I also used a bowl and I traced that curve there because I felt like that was really important to how this was going to lay out, because I was really struggling with this really, really bright neon image, which I really, really love. As I mentioned in the intro, there's a lot over on the blog in the story about why I picked that image and why it was so meaningful to me, and yet it was a real challenge for me to work so bright on a more vintage background, because I struggle to not go vintage. That's the reality of the style of my work, and I'm okay with that. But I did learn a lot through this process. So here I'm applying the paper with some clear matte gel. Matte gel is a little bit thicker than matte medium, and it allows that glue, which is the matte medium. The medium is an adhesive, so it allows that to kind of smush down into the texture where I overlapped. So I'm just applying more to make sure that that's very, very well adhered. So this worked out beautifully, and I did actually have my husband come in last night and help me kind of problem solve and get some thoughts going about how to attach my quote to the page so that it didn't distract again from the focal image, but it complemented it. And I think that I was able to accomplish that as well. I don't mind saying that was a success. So I'm going to be doing some other things to make that the girl pop out a little bit more, that shape, but I'll let you watch that here as we move along. Just clean it up a little bit, because that is that medium is an adhesive, so it will really glop up the brush. So, but I guess I'm going to come in with some matte medium, so it doesn't matter. So I'm using the fluid matte medium to put a good coat of that as a sealant on top of my image. Now, sometimes you can get a little bit of running from your ink. I have an inkjet printer. I didn't see any bleeding. I didn't even see it in the colorizing of that matte medium as I was doing it. I don't know if you can see that or not, but I do have way too much there, so I'm just going to dab some up. I tend to go overboard in most things, so and I'm just going over and over and over that surface because I want to get rid of as many streaks as I can and make it as even as possible. In the end, it didn't matter. Like, it was beautiful. I was completely happy with it, but that's my attempt there, just slowing that down a little bit for you, so you can see that. And so now I'm going to come in, I think, with, I can't remember. So let's, oh, here's a close-up. So I think I'm just thinking through my process there, like, how am I going to draw out the color in that image? Because I kind of landed on the blue. So there you go, the manganese blue hue. It's a very brilliant color. It's kind of a mix between a blue and a turquoise. It's not quite turquoise, but it's not a really mellow blue either. So I'm just using my finger and gently going around the whole surface. You will see me do this multiple times because I was really trying to deepen and darken the tones in it as I moved through the layers. So I'm going to turn the music on for a bit because this is somewhat repetitive, and I'll come back when I have something more to add. As you can see, I am coming in again with another layer of that blue. I really wanted it to be a little bit more dominant there, and I am coming around the edges of the, I came around, excuse me, the edges of the project as well. I was thinking about, like, where did I want the quote to be, and I wasn't quite sure, so I had to get some more paint, apparently. So this is the quinacridone Nicolazo Gold, one of my favorite colors, and so you're going to see me go back and forth a little bit with the Nicolazo Gold. The blue is not quite dry, so we're getting a little bit of a green mix, which was really pretty. And then I'll be going again back to the manganese blue because I wanted that to be the predominant color. But mixed media is all about layers, and being able to see those layers is really satisfying. And you're going to see in the close-up photos that we're going to be able to see that quinacridone gold, but it is not the star. The manganese blue is the star because it's going to bring out the blues in our image. So again, I'm going to set this to a little bit of music and let you watch. Just again finishing up, coming in with one last layer of the blue. I did come in off camera and I did add a little bit more. That often happens for me because I look at it after my eyes have rested and I can decide what I want to add. So this is a Mara Blue wax crayon, and I am using it because it's the perfect color. It's the same color as the manganese blue. Unfortunately, my sight is not good enough for me to see the color on the tube. Even with my glasses, I cannot tell what the color actually is. So I'm just going to put blue Mara Blue crayon in the supply list in case you're interested. They're a great product. I don't use them nearly enough, but we're kind of creating a halo around that that image, which is I think really helped it to look a little bit more three-dimensional on the page. I will also be coming in with some charcoal or a soft pastel in black, and as well as a charcoal pencil to really accentuate and make that image pop off the page. That always works well. I also do come in with the soft pastel around all of the edges of the substrate, which does kind of mute back the blue. And so off camera I did come in again when I was done, got my quote on, and I was able to add some of the blue back to the edges of the project. So this is the gosh, I keep losing that word, the soft pastel. I did have a little, it seems like I came in with a pencil after a bit here. Oh, I guess I did give it a try. So see how dark that black line is, which is really making that pop off, which was challenging because I don't typically work with an image that has such a dark background like that, where it's really hard to distinguish the edges. But this worked really, really well. I believe that I do go back with a little bit more of the blue crayon to accentuate that a little bit more. It does mix with the pastel, the black pastel, because they're both water reactive and they're both movable. So you can affect combinations of color with it. But oh my goodness, I was so pleased with how this was going. Like I was patting myself on the back. It felt really, really good. So I'm just reaching for my soft charcoal pencil. I have a variety of sizes, and the soft is the one that works the best. And it allows me to get in a little bit closer and with a little bit more definition there. So we'll see what happens next, because I do not recall. More crayon. Yep, I was recalling correctly. I didn't want it to be super overwhelming though. I just really wanted to create a halo that just made it look more three-dimensional. So I learned a lot in this project. So, and this is again the soft pastel in black around all of the edges. I'm going to set this to music for a bit because it goes on for just a tad. Okay, this is it, guys. If you enjoyed this process, I hope that you'll head on over to read the blog, and I hope that you're inspired by the story. It's going to be a fairly transparent sharing, but if you're interested, you can hop on over. The link will be down below in the video description box. Thank you guys so much. Take care. Bye-bye.